Let me say something that's going to make half of you uncomfortable and the other half feel seen. Most of you watching this are average at most things, and so am I. And so is virtually every person alive. But here's the question nobody in the self-improvement space has the guts to ask honestly. Is that actually a problem? Stay with me, because this video is going to go somewhere most motivational content refuses to go. And by the end, you're going to have a completely different relationship with the word average. Whether that means embracing it, escaping it, or finally understanding where it belongs in your life, don't leave early, because around the 8-minute mark, we're going to talk about the one area of your life where being average is not just acceptable, it's actively destroying you. And most people have no idea it's happening. Part 1. The War on Average. Somewhere in the last 20 years, average became a dirty word. Not mediocre, not lazy, average. The statistical middle of human performance. The place where, by pure mathematical definition, most people in most things will always land. And yet, we treat it like a character flaw. Think about the messages you've absorbed your entire life. Be extraordinary, rise above, don't settle, hustle harder, sleep less, do more, be more. The entire self-improvement industry, an industry worth over $40 billion globally, is built on one foundational premise, that where you are right now is not enough. And look, some of that is useful. Aspiration is healthy, growth is real. Nobody here is arguing for stagnation, but something went wrong. Because at some point, the message stopped being grow in the areas that matter to you and became, you must be exceptional at everything or you are failing at life. And that message, that toxic, impossible standard, is quietly breaking people. The parent who feels guilty for not being a peak performer at work, and a flawless spouse, and a present, creative, patient parent, and someone with a six-pack and a meditation practice and a side business. The person in their 40s who looks at their career and feels shame because they didn't become the version of themselves they imagined at 22. The retiree who wonders if a life of ordinary moments, a steady job, a loving family, a simple home, somehow added up to less than it should have. This is what the war on average has done. And before we talk about when average is genuinely dangerous, we need to be honest about when it is completely, entirely, beautifully fine. Part 2. The Case for Average. Here's a thought experiment. You are cooking dinner tonight. You are an average cook. The meal is decent, not Michelin star, not Instagram-worthy, but warm, nourishing, shared with people you love. Is something wrong with that? You are driving to work. You are an average driver. You follow the rules, you arrive safely, you cause no accidents. Is something wrong with that? You play guitar on weekends. You've played for 15 years and you're still pretty average. But when you play, something in you settles. The week gets quieter. You feel like yourself. Is something wrong with that? Of course not. And yet, the average is failure culture would have you feel vaguely embarrassed about all three. It would suggest you should be optimizing your cooking, taking advanced driving courses, and booking gigs, or what's the point? The philosopher Aristotle had a concept called eudaimonia, often translated as happiness, but more accurately translated as human flourishing. And his argument was that a flourishing life is not a life of peak performance in all domains. It's a life of meaning, connection, and virtue, most of which happens in the middle registers of human experience. Not at the top, in the middle. The middle is where most of life actually lives. The ordinary Tuesday, the unremarkable conversation that somehow you still remember 20 years later. The average meal that becomes a family tradition. The mediocre vacation where nothing went right and everyone still talks about it laughing. Average, in the right places, is not the absence of a good life. Average, in the right places, is the good life. But, and this is critical, not everywhere, not in everything. Because there are specific domains where average quietly costs you everything, and most people sleepwalk right through them. That's where we're going next. Part 3. Where average is quietly killing you. Let's shift gears completely. Everything I just said is true, and I meant it, but now I need to give you the other side. Because this video would be dishonest if it stopped at average is fine. It isn't fine everywhere. And here's where it genuinely, consequentially is not. Your health. Average health in your 30s becomes below average health in your 50s. The body doesn't hold a steady line. It drifts, slowly, then suddenly. Average sleep, average movement, average nutrition, compounded over 20 years, does not produce an average outcome. It produces a significantly below average one. This isn't about vanity. This isn't about six-packs or marathon times. It's about whether you are physically present and capable for the second half of your life. Average effort here is one of the only areas where the math genuinely works against you. Your one thing. Every person has, or should have, one domain where average is unacceptable. Not because society demands it, because you demand it. The thing that, if you stayed average in it forever, you would feel the loss of deeply. For some people, that's their career. For others, it's their art, their parenting, their craft, their faith. It's different for everyone, but it exists for everyone. And the dangerous thing about the average is okay message, taken without nuance, is that some people use it to make peace with staying average in that one thing, the thing they actually care about, the thing they would regret. That's not self-acceptance. That's self-abandonment dressed up as peace. Your closest relationships. Average effort in your most important relationships, your marriage, your children, your closest friendships, produces outcomes that feel fine until they suddenly don't. Relationships don't announce their decline. They drift, quietly, gradually, until one day the distance is so wide that closing it feels impossible. Average presence, average attention, average investment. In the relationships that matter most, these are not neutral. They are withdrawals from an account you cannot afford to empty. So we have a paradox now, and it's a real one. Average is fine in most things, and catastrophic in a few, which means the real skill, the one almost nobody teaches, is something different entirely. Part 4. The Art of Strategic Unevenness. The highest performing, most fulfilled people you will ever meet are not excellent at everything. They are strategically uneven. They have made deliberate, conscious choices about where to be excellent and where to be completely, unapologetically average. They have looked at their life, identified what actually matters to them, not to culture, not to social media, not to their parents' expectations, and they have concentrated their finite energy there. Everything else? They let be average, cheerfully, without guilt. Warren Buffett, one of the most successful investors in human history, is by his own admission a poor manager, a mediocre public speaker in his early years, and someone who has largely outsourced his domestic life for decades. He found the one game he was built to play, and he played it with everything. The research backs this up. A landmark study by the Corporate Executive Council found that employees who concentrated development effort on their top strengths improved performance by nearly 40%. Employees who concentrated the same effort on shoring up weaknesses, less than 10% improvement. We are not built for uniform excellence. We are built for directed excellence. And here's the liberating implication of that. Every hour you spend feeling guilty about being average at something that doesn't actually matter to you is an hour stolen from the thing that does. The guilt is not humility. The guilt is waste.
Part 5. How to know which is which. So the practical question now is, how do you actually figure out where excellence belongs in your life and where average is the right answer? 3 questions. Write these down if you need to. Question 1. What would I regret at the end? Not what would impress people, not what would look good. What would you, in your most honest private moments, regret staying average in? That's your signal. That's where the energy goes. Question 2. What do I keep returning to? Not what you're told to care about. What do you come back to, even when it's hard, even when there's no reward yet, even when nobody's watching? That persistence is data. It's telling you something about where your excellence wants to live. Question 3. Where is average actively costing me something I can't get back? Time, health, a relationship, an opportunity that has an expiration date. If average in a specific area is producing a slow compounding loss, that's not the place for comfort. That's the place for urgency. Everything else? Let it be average. Cook your average meals. Drive your average commute. Play your average guitar on a Tuesday night. And stop apologizing for it. Part 6. The identity piece. There's one more layer here that most conversations about average completely miss. A lot of people aren't average because they lack talent or time or resources. They're average because they don't believe they're allowed to be excellent. The belief runs deep and quiet. It sounds like, who am I to think I could be exceptional at this? It sounds like, people like me don't do things like that. It sounds like 100 different sentences that all point to the same ceiling. An identity that has decided, somewhere below conscious awareness, that the middle is its permanent address. And this is where the conversation about average stops being about productivity and starts being about something more fundamental. Because if you are using "it's okay to be average" as a philosophy, great, use it wisely, we've established that. But if you are using it as a hiding place, if the real reason you stay average in the one thing you actually care about is fear of trying and finding out you still fall short, then average isn't your philosophy, it's your protection. And you deserve better than a life spent protected from the thing you actually want. The most important move you can make is not a strategy or a habit or a routine. It's deciding that your ceiling is higher than your fear told you it was. Closing. So, is it okay to be average in all tasks? Here's the honest answer. Yes, in most of them. Completely, wholeheartedly, without apology. No. In the few that actually define the life you want to live, the health you need to keep, and the people you cannot afford to lose. The goal was never to be exceptional at everything. That's an impossible standard invented to sell you things. The goal is to know yourself well enough to know where excellence belongs, and to give it there, fully and without distraction, while letting everything else be gloriously, peacefully, sufficiently average. That's not settling, that's wisdom. And if this video gave you something to think about, you're ready for the next one. Watch this video next, where we go deep on the one daily habit that separates the people who stay stuck from the ones who finally move. It's on screen right now. Click it. You've earned the next step.